as well.
Oh
Judy
my God.
Dench.
Great.
That's some of the
You-
greatest film acting there
I
in the
haven't seen
world
her in a
ever.
while. Yeah, no kidding.
She's a goddess.
It seems like you continue to kind of like push yourself into whatever you want to keep taking chances. You can't stop.
Yeah, I want to be fierce in terms of my my art, and I want to try and really. I'm interested. I'm curious and interested and hungry to explore and examine what life means, what human beings are, who we are, how we exist. I'm still completely enraptured with the examination of what this life is and who we are as human beings. And the depth of that is so, I love it, and I love the big themes, and I live like that as a person, or I connect deeply to the people I love. I experience things deeply, and I'm interested in exploring characters that way. And I also love perspective, because I feel by viewing the world through different people's eyes and the motivations and the reasons and all of those things, I find that it brings me into living.
Well, I mean,
If that makes sense.
it's like that scene. Like I keep like the one. There's a quote that actually Sidney Pollack said in Michael Clayton, which is a movie I watch over and over again.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
It's fucking great. Where he goes, where he says, people are fucking incomprehensible, and
Yeah.
and it's so like you. There's so many things we think that are like simple, that there are patterns that we as people, some people are predictable or whatever, but I have no idea what the hell makes some people go and how people handle things. Everybody's totally different. And like recently, and I know you've had to deal with this as well. It's like contextualizing loss. What the hell is that about? How do you go on living, knowing that this is life? I mean, this is what it is. There's nothing unusual about dying. So how do I make this not a defeat of some kind or some sort of, dark hole that you go in? How do you sort of process it in that, like, well, this deepens my experience of life, and I see this as a blessing?
Yeah, no, I have trouble with that. I mean, I think that I remember when my father died, the moment that it happened, everything became so unstable. It was like, none of this is real. Everything could go in any second. And I had a very existential response to it. I had a very visceral, but also had that really existential response, which is, none of this now exists, because the thing that was so solid in my life for so long, and was actually probably, I knew he would leave at some point, he would die at some point, but it wasn't going to be now, and it wasn't meant to be now, and all of what happened, and none of this is real.
Right.
So I went into that very existential place.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm a mother, so I had two little. This was the scariest thing. One of my daughters, because I was screaming, because my sister called me on the phone and said, Papa's gone. He's gone.
Yeah.
He's not here anymore. And I'm like, what is this? What? And started screaming. And my littlest one, who was really little at the time, said, "Is Mummy acting?" Which was devastating to me, because she'd heard me rehearsing in the bedroom sometimes, where I would practice and rehearse. And she said that to Sunday, who's the older one. And she said, "Mummy acting?" Like that.
Yeah.
And I had to come out and go. And Sunday told me, and I'm like, "No, Mum, it's not. Mum, this is real. This is real." And then she said, "But you're not going to be sad tomorrow, right?" And I'm like, I'm going to be sad for a long time.
No.
But I realized they don't want a sad house. So
Right.
I'm going to have to rally now and smile and push through for them, because the thing a child doesn't want is a sad house.
Right.
where you get up in the morning day after day and it's a sad house, right?
Right.
So I had to pull myself out of all of that for them. So how extraordinary to have to be something for somebody else. And that's the basis of life, really, isn't it?
Right. Well, and that's the natural sort of course of it, isn't it? That countering that extreme loss and then having to parent with that the almost polar opposite of loss, right?
Yeah.
So you live in that moment that you're going to share your heart, that both things are happening simultaneously, and that is the natural course of things.
Yeah. Yeah, but the idea of, I've always circled loss, sorrow, I love that word. I was listening to Fiona Shaw talking recently, and I was like, I so love you as an actress. And she was talking about the word grief, but then she was talking about the word sorrow and what an extraordinary word that is, because it's almost like sorrow is an ongoing emotion. And right. I thought, yeah, it so is. And I've circled that a lot in films I've made. Birth is one of them, where she's still so willing to believe that her husband is alive and a 10-year-old child, because she's still experiencing such grief and sorrow at the loss of her husband, who she loves so much. So when a 10-year-old comes and says, I'm actually him, I'm in this body, but I'm him, she's so willing to believe it.
Right. There's a lot of them where you're in a proximity to it. If you're not in it yourself, it's nearby, the sorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even in Lion.
I'm trying to move to some joy. Lion, but Lion to me is actually joy, because it's it's love, it's unconditional love, which is a beautiful thing to depict on screen. And that was, I just love you, and I will always love you. And you can go and find other people who will love you just as much, and that will make me happier, because you deserve love. What a beautiful person to be giving that to a child and watching him grow and saying, yeah, go find your birth mother, because I love her too, and I want you to have more love. Right. I'm not threatened by that. I love her because she made you.
And that was a real person, right?
Yeah. So who I'm still very close to, and really. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
I've been a mother in so many capacities, because I'm a mother of adopted children. I'm a mother of biological child. I'm who I gave birth to. I'm a mother of a surrogate child who was given birth to by somebody else, but who is my genetic child. So
a full range of motherhood experience.
Yeah, I mean, I love I'm an oldest child, so probably
How many were there?
Just two, but I just think there's that oldest child personality sometimes, which is caretaker and mother, and I wanted to, and I love that. I love being able to. I actually love giving to other people and seeing them happy.
Oh, that's nice. I'm the oldest child, but I went more of the self-centered look at me direction. I'm the main one.
I got a lot of look at me. My mother says I was hot-housed. So I had a lot of attention and a lot of, just sort of directed at me. So I never, I crave the approval, but I'm not sure I crave the attention. But I crave approval from her.
From your mother?
Yeah.
She's still around, correct?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Both of mine are still around, both my parents.
Oh, you're very fortunate.
Yeah.
They say you've got a wall between you, and, when both parents are gone, it's like mortality really comes crashing towards you, right?
Yeah, it's that's all starting. Yeah, you start to really realize, like, what is important? Do you know, like, what am I doing that is not necessary? But I like the idea that you've gone through all these characters to sort of like get a deeper understanding of life.
Yeah.
Whether you wanted to or not, that living in these characters.
And being with these filmmakers, because part of my sort of journey has always been trying to seek out teachers and really smart people. Just so these, working with the greatest writers and filmmakers in the world is, I mean, talk about how to grow, right? And I love to learn.
On a day-to-day basis, outside of Stanley, and we talked a little about Sidney Pollack, but I mean, what were some of the most provocative sort of projects you were working on intellectually and creatively satisfying because of who was driving it, who was directing it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jane Campion changed my life.
Right.
Von Trier came in.
Oh.
I mean, I sought Von Trier out and went over there to try and I saw Breaking the Waves and was in a fetal position after that movie, which I know has been, they say it's misogynistic and there's probably parts of it that are, but it hit me partly because of the faith and the desire to give over this woman who would give and give and give, partly because she felt that she had done something wrong and had to that theme for some reason resonated so deeply with me. I had to crawl we saw it in a screening room in London. We were meant to go to dinner after, and I just went home and got under the covers in a fetal position sobbing.
Really?
Oh, and that happened to me with Precious. I watched Precious,
right.
Lee Daniels' Precious, and we were meant to go out and grab a bite after it. I saw it in New York. I was like, get in a cab, get home. I mean, I could start weeping about it now. Yeah. The scene with the father and the young child in the bed, I was just like, I couldn't function. So I have these responses to movies from, so they go so deeply into me that I have to. Oh.
Yeah. Has that always been? Is that what made you want to do it?
Yeah. And even reading books. I mean, I read Beloved, Toni Morrison's. I was like, I read Beloved and I couldn't even move after. I was just like, and I mean, just so viscerally responding to something. But yes, have always been like that since I was a child.
Yeah, but that made you want to seek out Von Trier? You're like, I need to go wherever that guy takes people.
I was fascinated as to who he was and how he got. I mean, the performances in that film are I mean, Emily Watson is like, it's beyond. It's from some other place. So yeah, I wanted to go and be in that world, and I love traveling the world and going to other places to exist with people from all over, different nationalities, different filmmaking techniques.
And which was the Jane Campion movie?
Portrait of a Lady.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, And then, I mean, but Baz Luhrmann came along and went, and I wanted to make a love story. I'd been wanting to make a love story. I didn't know it was I was like, a tragic love story? Okay. I'd like to make a love story now where it ends beautifully. But yeah, Satine dies but hey, it's still a deep love story.
Yeah. I love the, I like so many of the movies. I was sort of amazed that, like, I feel like I've known you my whole life because I've
you have.
I kind of have, really, from at least Dead Calm and then all the way up through all the other ones. I'm just amazed at how many I've seen, Wow. And to Die For was a life-changing movie.
Yes, Gus.
Oh, my God. I've talked to Gus. He's great. But I mean, Gus. That whole story, like that weird, Joaquin when he was like almost feral. He's like, just
Joaquin.
Like, and you're also young.
He was so young. And, but he was open. I remember emotionally, and he would just shake in some of those. I mean, the stuff we had to do together, the scenes we had to do, and the sexuality of that. It was so. I think the first day was the scene where I have to, be going down on him.
Yeah.
And Gus was shooting it with the camera. I just remember going, God, this is so weird. But it was so well written by Buck Henry, right?
Yeah,
and
right. Great.
And then realized by Gus, and the combination of Buck and Gus, because so many of these things are the combinations. in which the way we're put together, which is why I feel it's incredibly